Welcome, everyone. My name is Alicia Moore. I am the CEO of Clinical Science Research Solutions, and I'm also the founder of I Am Research and Wellness Foundation. And today we are going to do some deep dives on how I'm actually building a clinical research site in a town where research does not exist. I'm talking about research naive areas, towns like mine. Usually, the basic or the traditional way of opening up a clinical research site or speaking to physicians about partnering with you, it doesn't necessarily work. And what I'm going to do is give you the 5 strategies on what I'm doing, the foundational strategies on how you can actually open up a clinical research site, how you can talk to your physicians, and actually interweave those conversations in. No pressure, no jargon, just a natural way of talking to your doctor. So, step number one, first of all, before you do anything else, you need to understand what's missing in your community. Is it the lack of site infrastructure? Is it the lack of PI training? Is it because you do not have the workforce pipeline or basic just clinical trial awareness? And or what about the education? Do you have the education that's there? A lot of times it's not. So if you are missing those particular sectors, that's going to help build up your clinical research site and the structure that you need in the area, then those are the pillars that you need to start with. First of all, again, you need to assess where the gaps are and figure out like, hey, is it the facilities? Again, community trust. For me, that's what told me what I need to build. I need to build the whole ecosystem. And I actually started out with my courses, and then I was able to build out from there. Step number 2, study the physician employment. A lot of times in these particular areas, your physicians are mainly contracted through hospitals, and a lot of times they do not have their own private practices. So, the way you go about having these particular conversations is, say, for instance, with what I did was I actually had an appointment with my physicians, and I was able to interweave those particular conversations naturally. It was no pushy, nothing salesy. So you have to figure out a way of getting in contact with the doctors in the first place. And then once you do, then it's going to give you the ability to find out whether they're contracted through the hospital. And if they are, is there a clause in their contract that says they can moonlight? And is there a clause in their contract that says they have non-compete? And a lot of times they'll let you know, first of all, if they're interested, and second of all, if they're able to moonlight. They are usually pretty happy if they're able to moonlight because that means they're not just stuck with working for one facility or one hospital. Step number 3, initiate natural conversations. I was able to initiate natural conversations for one with my primary care physician. The way I did it was, well, the nurse that came in to do the assessments, they normally ask how you're doing, what are you here for? Of course, you let them know what's going on with your health. And then as they're taking notes, then that's whenever I was able to interweave in the conversation. Yes, I work for in the clinical research industry. Oh, what do you do? I let them know. And then with excitement, I say, you know what? Actually opening up a clinical research site here, but I'm looking for a doctor. And so in that case, what happened to me was the nurse told me, well, you might want to ask Dr. So and so. She's very adventurous. She might be interested. She's doing all kinds of things. She uh, is a part owner of another business. I said, this is absolutely amazing to hear. It's music to my ears. So, and they also find the conversations very interesting too. So that's a plus because, again, if the infrastructure or if clinical research doesn't exist in the area, they're going to want to learn more about it. First off, a lot of them ask, well, what is that? What is clinical research? So that is a conversation builder that you can actually expand upon in a short period of time. Give them an overall view. It doesn't have to go too deep because it's going to pique their interest anyway. So, step number 3 for me was, well, whenever I find out that my physicians, I have their attention, Once my physician walked into the room, she does her assessment, we talk. And actually, this is my second time talking to her about clinical research, but I dug a little bit deeper this time around. The conversation I had with her, I repeated what I do in the industry because she's telling me, she's very busy with what she's doing and, her patient clientele is picking up. So that was a gateway for me to tell her, yeah, I'm super busy too. I am super excited about, I have my own nonprofit foundation and we have our first kickoff event in October, the virtual conference. And then I'm working on having my own conference next year. And I'm working with a professor from Harvard. He's an MD, and that really just goes over well with them. And it did with her. And so I was able to say, hey, since I'm opening up a clinical research site and it requires a physician to, oversee the safety of the patients, and I leave it as simple as that. And then the next question, more than likely, what happened to me was, and what could possibly happen to you is, they will say, okay, well, what does that entail? Again, you give them a brief overview. That's exactly what I did. It piqued her interest to the point to where she was like, hey, I'm interested. I said, awesome. So she voluntarily gave me her email address. I said, perfect. What I'm going to do is I'm going to send you a PI packet, an overall view of what it's going to entail for you, the actual training, your process that I'm going to put you through for you to experience. I'm going to make sure, you give me your updated CV, and then you need to make for sure that you take the GCP certification. All that information has to go to the sponsor. And so I gave her that information. She was absolutely thrilled. She rolled with it. And then I followed up with her and said, well, you know what? After you have reviewed it, take your time. And then afterwards, we can go ahead and have another conversation, a coffee chat right here at Starbucks. Just as simple as that. Also, since I had another doctor's appointment, um, I was able to interweave that particular conversation as well. This particular physician was extremely excited. He also let me know that, of course, he has a contract through with a couple different hospitals, but he's able to moonlight. And he needs continuing education doing something clinical research. That was right up his alley. He said yes instantly. He gave me his email address. I told him, okay, I gave him a brief overview. He asked me where, I told him where I worked, and I, told him what a PI, the role entails, and I'm going to send him a packet over explaining to him everything that he needs to know. And then once he goes through it, I told him, I said, well, let's have a coffee chat right there at Starbucks. He instantly said yes. So again, whenever I made the offer, it was with clarity, it was with passion, it was with a purpose, and it involved them, it involved me partnering up. And the word partnership, them doing something a lot bigger outside of the norm, it usually rings a bell with them because a lot of times they're wanting to, expand upon their careers and their experience. So the conversation should go over well, and if it does not, you always ask for a referral. With the first physician that I had, she automatically gave me a referral to another doctor. So honestly, that's three doctors that I have on my radar right now. Okay, step number 5, you follow up like a professional. So you go ahead and you send them the PI packet, that portfolio that you have created for them, and it's actually branded to your particular colors of your company. And following up, it just means a lot more than what you think. The simple follow up can say, hey, if you haven't heard from them in a few days, make sure you allow them, give them time because they are busy physicians. I would give them a couple of days, and then I would follow up if you haven't heard back from them and ask them, hey, have you had the time to go back and review the PI portfolio I sent to you? And if so, do you have any questions? At that point, you can offer to have a coffee chat at Starbucks or even at a Mexican restaurant to go a lot deeper into what the actual role entails and what kind of partnership you're looking to do and the next steps in your particular business, whether that's obtaining a building. You're either working with a grant writer to make sure you have the funds, or once you have solidified a contract with the doctors, then you let them know, like, hey, the next step is, of course, is to get a building. If you don't have one already, go ahead and get your equipment, the equipment that you need, and that's something that we can go over too. And then that's whenever you're able to follow up with the sponsors. You'll be able to network with other site owners to see if they can connect you with sponsors. And then also, if you are connected with, let's say, other vendors that help with patient recruitment, retention, EDC, regulatory, those types of things, eSource, they normally have a pool or a source of sponsors that they are connected to. See if you can find sponsors that are going to be beneficial for the area that you live in. So, say for instance, if your area is suffering from or it's plagued with diabetes or heart disease or neuro diseases, or neural issues, or cancer issues, if those are the demographics and the information, the data that you have collected, you've done your data analysis, market analysis, and you know exactly what your area needs, then those are the kinds of conversations you need to be having with, the particular vendors that can possibly match you with the correct sponsors and studies, and moving on from that point on, right? So, in closing, I have given you my 5 steps, as this is what I have started the groundwork into building the clinical research infrastructure in a research naive area. And over the next 5 videos, I'm going to actually break down the 5 steps I just went over today in more detail. So just make for sure you tune in, subscribe to the news channel and our YouTube channel anyway. And also make sure, if you're a sponsor or CRO and you're ready to partner, let's talk, let's have a chat, and let's connect so we can start serving the underserved communities and actually decreasing the amount of underserved areas and research naive areas. All right, stay tuned, subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I will see you the next time around. Bye.